One of the most powerful parts of being a mechanical engineer who's interested in thermal fluids, heat transfer systems, is being able to determine the thermal efficiency of a power plant, or also known as a heat engine. And that's what this module is all about, is introducing you to the definition. It's a formal definition of the thermal efficiency of a system operating in a cycle. So thermal efficiency is related to systems operating in a cycle, and in particular, a heat engine or a power plant where the net work or net power is a positive number. So let's recap a little bit. I've just gone and done a copy and paste of a slide from previously. Here's a schematic of a system operating in one cycle, just one cycle, right? So we've got QH coming in from a high temperature reservoir. That would be kilojoules. This closed system operating in a cycle is producing W net in kilojoules, and it's rejecting some heat that's required by the second law of thermodynamics, QL, in terms of kilojoules, to a low temperature reservoir, typically the surrounding. So that's a schematic that you should get familiar with. You should become familiar with drawing that schematic. And the first law, what does the first law say? It says QH minus QL equals W net. That's a statement of the first law. The cyclic integral of heat in equals the cyclic integral of work out. That, of course, is like an integral differential integral equation that you're going to start with if you choose to go to graduate school and take graduate level thermodynamics. Now, remember, and again, this is also a recap and reminder, nothing new here. All I've done is basically taken the previous slide and I put dots, and shame on me again. I have overlooked, I should have a dot over top of W net. So I've got Q dot H coming in. What would that be? That would be kilowatts, kilojoules per second, kilowatts. Same thing, rejecting heat at a steady rate, Q dot L. And shame on me, I should see W dot net, the net output power in kilowatts or megawatts. Okay. And then I put, thank goodness, I put dots over everything here in my first law statement. Q dot H minus Q dot L equals W dot net. So very similar, right? So it's all about the dots when we're dealing with systems that are operating at a steady rate. So please excuse me for not putting my dot over top of W net. Just a very careless copy and paste situation. And then, of course, here's just an image of a typical power plant, electric production power plant. I want you to imagine in your mind, use your imagination. After years of successful engineering and leadership experience, some number of years, more than 3, okay. After years of successful engineering and leadership experience, you're now the manager of a large-scale power plant that would be like the one you see here. That particular power plant is able to put out 3,000 megawatts of electric power. That is a huge amount of electric power. Imagine that you're the manager of that plant. A lot of people working there. A lot of people depend on you. Let's think about objectives and expenses in your role as manager. Let's think about, what is your main objective? What's your main objective as being the manager of this plant? And also, what's your main expense? Now, let's not think about salary expenses to get that, but in terms of running the plant and figuring that we're not going to be thinking about salaries. What's your main expense for running that plant? What's your main objective? I'm going to suggest that your main objective is to produce electric power for consumers. Okay. Now, also important, of course, is safety of all your employees, following the regulations associated with the environment. Of course, those are all important. But your main business objective is producing electric power for consumers. Absolutely. How about your main expense? So you'll find out that the main expense that you have in running this electric power plant is the cost that you have to pay for fuel or the source of energy. It could be other sources of energy other than fuel, but you get the idea. Your main expense is going to be the cost of fuel. So here's what I want to suggest in terms of getting you comfortable with being able to quickly remember and recall and understand the definition of thermal efficiency of your power plant. And that is that your main objective, producing electric power, that would be called the energy sought. That's what you're seeking to do. That's your objective, energy sought. And then your main expense is the cost of fuel. Well, that's the type of energy that costs you money to buy. You got to pay out of your pocket or out of the company's pocket to buy that. That's the energy that costs. And so get in your mind, you've got two things you got to worry about. The energy sought, you've got to make that. That's your objective. And also, how are you going to make it? You got to buy a bunch of things. And the biggest expense is going to be the energy that costs, the fuel. Energy sought, energy that costs. Okay, so how does that fit on your tried and true schematic diagram? And thank goodness I put dot on top of my WNet here on this one. Okay, so we've got a power plant. We're operating at a steady rate, okay? And I've labeled, well, energy that costs. Where's the energy that costs? Here it is right here, Q dot H. That's what you've got to buy. And what are you seeking? Your objective energy sought is W.net. So get that in your mind, the schematic. Well, what's TH? That's the high temperature reservoir. That's where your energy that costs is coming from, either due to combustion, maybe a nuclear reaction, could be solar heating. Okay, any of those, but just get in your mind you've got a high temperature reservoir that's exchanging heat with all of this equipment, system operating a cycle, and we're rejecting heat down to a lower temperature reservoir. What could that be? That could be the surroundings, the surrounding air. It could be the lake or river water. Could be the ocean. But you get the idea. You're rejecting heat to somewhere here in the world. Right. So also, important point here is where do you label energy sought and where do you label energy that costs? Simple as that. Get the schematic into your head, get familiar, comfortable with drawing it down with pencil and paper. Now we come to an important slide and we define the thermal efficiency of a heat engine or power plant. I've repeated my schematic over here in top right, okay, labeled high temperature reservoir, low temperature reservoir. And here is our important definition. You must commit this to memory. Okay, it's just words, but you must commit this to memory. The thermal efficiency of a power plant is the energy sought over the energy that costs. Those are the words. Those are the words. Okay, so you got to commit that to memory. All right, now let's go. I've shown down here lower, left-hand side, steady operation. You're running the power plant 24/7. People need electric power 24/7. You're operating steadily. The thermal, I didn't say it. This is not N. This is Greek letter eta. Eta thermal. Greek letter eta. Eta thermal. That's thermal efficiency. Wow. It comes so naturally to me. Eta thermal. Greek letter eta. Well, now some number. Instead of just words, let's put some variables that you can work with on this. W.net. That's the energy sought. Energy that costs Q.H. Got it. What's the first law? What's the first law for W.net that we just talked about? That's Q.H minus Q.L, right? Okay, all divided by Q.H. Okay, so the energy, this is an incredibly important slide, but I'm hoping you say, well, this is pretty easy. Easy. I think I can nail this. I think I can get it in my head. That's great. That's what I want you to do. Thermal efficiency of power plant, energy sought over energy cost. What is that? W.net over Q.H. Can I apply the first law? Yes. To the numerator, Q.H minus Q.L. This is going to be extraordinarily important for your success in the rest of this class. Now, I simply removed the dots for a piston and cylinder operating in one single cycle. So you've got the right-hand part, right? I just removed the dots. That's the expression of thermal efficiency for a piston and cylinder undergoing one single cycle. Okay, so over here, of course, what are the units of thermal efficiency? Unitless, no units. Thermal efficiency is some number less than 100%. Unitless. Let's do a little practice. Okay. Here's my tried and true sketch, and I've labeled some given information. And I've got a piston and cylinder undergoing one cycle, just so to keep our units easy. And I'm neither in SI or English. So QH given as 8 units, and QL is given as 3 units. Here's our question, our quiz. What is W net and what is the thermal efficiency? Okay. And here's the reminders. Here's the reminders for you on the right-hand side. All right. So with your eyes, you don't even have to apply this formula, Q dot H minus Q dot L. Just look at it with your eyes. If this is 8 coming in and 3 leaving, what's this leaving? It's got to be 5. So the schematic sketch can help you come up with numbers so you don't have to plug into a formula. Okay. 8 coming in, 3 leaving. What's left? Leaving. 5. All right. Thermal efficiency. Energy sought over the energy that costs. Okay, I don't need to look at a formula. Energy sought, 5. Energy that costs, 8. Thermal efficiency is 5/8. Let's see how we did. Well, there it is. Wow, we got the right answer. W net 5 units. We did it with our eyes. Method 1, just using some energy sought over the energy that costs, 5/8, simply looking at the picture. Now, what about method 2? Let's say you say, well, I want to go to a formula. That can work. All right. Thermal efficiency is QH minus QL over QH. So, okay, I'm going to jam numbers in a formula. That can work. Don't recommend it, but 8 minus 3 divided by 8 is 5/8. So we get the same answer no matter what. The thermal efficiency of this practice power plant is 62.5%. Pretty easy, as long as you know the definition. All right, well, let's recap what we just covered. We defined the thermal efficiency, eta thermal. We determined the thermal efficiency for a heat engine or a power plant. Energy sought over the energy that costs. You can't go wrong with that. Every single one of my thermodynamics professors, all the way from 1973 through graduate school and beyond, and that would have been through about 1980 with a couple of graduate school experiences. That's a long time. But every one of those professors started with this word definition. Thermal efficiency is the energy sought over the energy that costs, and I owe them so much appreciation because that's what helped me keep straight. Energy sought over the energy cost. Okay, the heat engine schematic is a powerful tool. Those professors also very repeatedly were drawing that heat engine schematic all the time. And then the last bullet item, you just figure out the rest. If you've got those top 3 bullet items, you can figure out the rest, and you're going to sail through quizzes, and you're going to do very well on test and exam situations. Of course, the devil's in the details, but this is a big hurdle for you to get over. Keep it simple, and just remember, let's see, even without the slides, energy sought over energy that cost is the thermal efficiency of any power plant or heat engine. Very important stuff.